Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, we were told that we were not able to record on the indoor, so we had to go outside. So we are really tempting fate. What is your prediction for the extremely loud thing that is going to come by? When I was driving out here earlier in the week, I saw a forklift or a gator of some kind dragging one of the soccer goals, and I was like, all right, so this is a replay. We've seen this one already. We're pretty far from the soccer field, so I don't think that's going to be it. But what is your prediction for the crazy background noise that we are about to be exposed to?
We're about 30 feet from some speed bumps. This is going to be the day they remove them, just because these speed bumps come and go, and they are allowed to be screwed in and screwed out. I think maybe that is, or perhaps some sort of vehicle will get caught on them and then scrape by as they slowly try to get over them. So I think that, or we are amongst the flowers and the trees, maybe some pruning. But at least that would be quiet as long as it's just a scissor kind.
Yeah, the grass appears to have been relatively freshly mowed, so we're probably outside of that. I did think, it's not Wednesday today, right? No, we're not going to get the noon siren on Wednesday, so
we could get a noon siren behind the camera.
We could, that's true. More and more people are calling him Noon the Siren. You're hearing it more and more these days.
So we just got done speaking with Carlos Locklyn, Ohio State's running backs coach, James Peoples, CJ Donaldson, Bo Jackson, Samuel Dixon, and there's a lot of stuff, because anytime we get to talk to Carlos Locklyn, it's almost like, let's just run down each thing that he said and talk about it. I didn't write all of it down, but I'm sure we'll go through some of that. One of the things that keeps being brought up is this duo of James Peoples and CJ Donaldson. I think they're both looking for 1,000 yards, but anytime you bring up, James and CJ compared to Travion last year and Quinshon, and he's like, why do you just keep saying two names? There's 6 guys in the room. Everybody has the equal opportunity. Nobody's done it yet, and that's one of the key parts, Tom.
Yeah.
Nobody has done it here yet, and I think that's as much messaging for us as it is for the players themselves, although I don't think he needs to speak to his players through us.
Yeah.
He does it just fine on his own, but that's the message coming out today, I think.
Yeah, and it makes sense, because you're looking at 2 guys and going, oh, 2 guys just like they had 2 guys last year. And I'm assuming that's going to be the approach this year, where you're going to split your carries, and you've seen the benefits of all that kind of stuff. But you're starting the year fresh. They have 0 wins this year. They have 0 rushes. They have 0 touchdowns. They have 0 yards. So he doesn't want it to be, well, remember those 2 guys who went in the second round of the NFL draft last year? Well, these 2 guys who are exactly like those guys, like, no, they haven't. They are currently, their mileage is currently sitting at 0 yards. So you don't want to get too far ahead. So you're right. A lot of times we do have coaches speaking to the players, speaking to the fans sort of through us. That's not an uncommon thing, and you'll hear consistent messages. You'll hear certain phrases from everyone there, and it's like, okay, I get it. That's the message internally here. But yeah, I think I understand that. I'm not surprised by that at all. There's also some consistent messaging. Do you remember there's like a GIF of Tony Alford when he was the running backs coach at Ohio State, like whipping his head around to look at someone, and that became like a meme for a while. That was someone asking him, what do you have to do to keep these guys happy?
Yeah.
And that was Tony Alford's response, and he, like, his head whipped around like, what are you talking about? They have to keep me happy. I thought it was very interesting to hear Carlos Locklyn essentially do the same thing, where is Carlos Locklyn worried about hurting anyone's feelings, Tony?
No, he certainly isn't. And he can do that because they know how he feels about them. Jim Tressel, the old coaching adage, players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's a lot like that. He's like, he will get after them. He'll put his arm around them before, during, and after, but he's not going to settle for anything. He's not going to settle for regular or normal. It has to be beyond that, and he asks a lot, he gives a lot as well, and he always talks about whenever we ask a question about one of these players, and he'll just be like, they're going to reflect my attitude, they're going to reflect my demeanor, my excitement, whatever it is. It's like, if you're not seeing it from the player, that's my fault, and he's going to hold them accountable for making it look bad, I think. But he said none of his players ever talked back to him, because they obviously know how he feels, but he can get after him. I think Bill Rabinowitz asked, have you ever said something that you regret? He's like, no, because I meant all of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he is very much a straight shooter.
Yeah.
You know where you stand with Carlos Locklyn, and he's someone who I think when he came over to Ohio State, there were people on the Oregon side that talked about like he was a little bit arrogant maybe, or a little bit, and you can certainly understand why people think that, but I don't think that's where it comes from. I think it is just he has high expectations for himself. He has high expectations for everyone, and you don't get to where Carlos Locklyn is in the business with the background that Carlos Locklyn has. Carlos Locklyn is not Brian Hartline, where he was an Ohio State wide receiver and an NFL wide receiver, and then he became an Ohio State wide receiver coach and Ohio State offensive coordinator. He doesn't have that background. He is, I mean, his Twitter handle is like @walkoncoach. He really is, he is a self-made man to a certain degree. And, you know, you can, it's very easy to be a millionaire if your last name is Rockefeller. If you have done it on your own, you've kind of had to grind a little bit more, and you've seen the work that really goes into it. And so if you want the best for the people around you, and you've seen the work that takes to get to that level, you want to see those guys putting in that work. And so you end up being a much more demanding coach.
Well, and because he's demanded a lot from himself, as he's talked about, but he also said he works just as hard as he did when he was at Memphis, you know, where it's like you are bottom of the rung, like you are a volunteer coach. That is where he was a walk-on coach. He's talking about picking up the bathroom or the locker rooms, like just making sure that doing some grunt work that position coaches feel like that's not even something that I want the graduate assistants doing. And that's still the mentality that he comes in here with, and everything that happens is a reflection upon him. And he is trying to make Ryan Day the happiest head coach that he possibly can, because that's his boss. And that's, if you can get everything out of these players, then that's going to be good for the entire team. And he's got a pretty good room. And I know we both think that it's not just you and I, it's going to be these two guys. Locke can say all of these things, that it's going to be any one of these six, but we talked to 4 players today.
Right, yeah.
So we talked with the 2 that we keep mentioning, and then Samuel Dixon and Bo Jackson.
Right, and so this is one of these watch what they do, not what they say kind of things. When you have 6 guys and you're telling us it's 6 guys, and then we get 4 of them, okay, so it's 6 guys, except here's the first 4. And, you know, they didn't put an order on it, but that would be broadly the 4 you would probably expect to be the first 4. So that kind of tells us a little something as well. And the fact that we got to talk to Bo Jackson, I mean, we've been talking about Bo Jackson since the spring. And there are 3 true freshman running backs. 2 of them were here for the spring. One of them, but Turbo Rogers, arrived in the summer. Bo Jackson has been head of the class just in terms of, you heard Carlos Locklyn talking on signing day or the beginning of spring practice, whenever it was. Bo Jackson was very clearly head of the class at that point. From what we've seen, Bo Jackson remains head of the class, and he's someone who Locklyn has said, not necessarily a day one, not necessarily getting first quarter carries against Texas, but Bo Jackson's also someone that, boy, it would not be at all a surprise if Bo Jackson ended up being the guy who had the 3rd most carries, 3rd most yards, whatever, on this year's team.
Especially with if Julian Sayin wins the job, without that running quarterback, I would expect that to be Bo Jackson as the guy who's 3rd in carries. And again, talking with him, he's energetic. He's still a true freshman, so there are a lot of short answers and things like that. I did ask him how he feels about making mistakes. He's like, it's fine because I'm going to correct him. So it's like, there are a couple of attitudes you can have. Because I asked the same thing with Samuel Dixon. He's like, I hate him. Yeah. And it's like, well, you can, it's like, it doesn't, and I wanted to ask Locke that, but I didn't get a chance to. Like, how do you want your players to feel? Because clearly, like, yeah, they're bad, but do you want them to, like, you don't want them to beat themselves up. You just want them to fix it. And I think Bo Jackson has the attitude of, yeah, I'll just fix it the next time.
Well, I think there's a difference between making a mistake the first time and making a mistake the 2nd and 3rd and 4th time. If you're making the same mistake 4 times, that's a big problem.
Yeah, you don't mind mistakes at that point.
Right.
Like,
if you're making,
I like them, in fact.
Yeah, if you're making a mistake once and then you're fixing it, that's fine. That's what practice is for. Practice is for figure out what you're doing wrong, get it straightened out before you got a stadium full of people watching you make a mistake. That's fine. That's part of the learning process. That's part of the teaching process as a coach. you don't want to have, okay, hey, you've missed the same blitz pickup 3 times. At that point, then you're out of the circle of trust, and then you're not playing in key moments.
Yeah, and then let's move to CJ Donaldson, because before we started the show, you said what of him?
CJ Donaldson is maybe the happiest person I have seen. I mean, like, you see, like, we've seen a bunch of Matt Patricia. And Matt Patricia, Matt Patricia has been smiling a lot and hugging a lot of people. We'll have the CJ Donaldson interview up a little later on this afternoon. Watch how much CJ Donaldson is smiling. Like, CJ Donaldson is... He just has the vibe of a guy who's living his best life. And this is not a freshman. This is a veteran guy who spent some time at a power conference program at West Virginia. So he's played high-level, football. He's had, he has been the big man on campus at a major state school, and all the benefits that come as a result of that. But man, you can tell he is really having some fun in Columbus, Ohio, because he is, he's talking about how he's, all the benefits he's accrued in terms of the nutrition program, the workout program, all that kind of stuff. He's in better shape. He's faster, all that kind of stuff. He feels like he's a better football player. He feels like he's a better running back now than he was at West Virginia. He also got a chance to talk about, you're looking at Jeremiah Smith, and you're looking at Brandon Innes and Carnell Tate and guys around you making plays like those guys can make, and it's like, yeah, man, this is... I think it's pretty fun and pretty cool to have, like, these are my colleagues, these are my coworkers now. Not that they're employees, but this is the company I am keeping now. And West Virginia is, like I said, it's a major conference program, but it's not, no disrespect to the West Virginia Mountaineers. I don't think even West Virginia fans would say this is the same as Ohio State. Like, it's sort of in the same neighborhood, but also not. Yeah,
well, and you predicted West Virginia to make the playoffs last year.
Did I? I think you did.
One of us. I don't know.
You did, yes.
Anyway,
that's the Friday morning show. You can find that, what Tony's talking about there.
The Donaldson kid, as I derail myself on this entire show trying to insult you.
He did talk about the fact that he had played against Jeremiah in Florida. He's a South Florida kid. He had played on the same, I think he was a South Florida Express kid. He played on the same team as Brandon Innes. So, he's known these guys. These guys have been, people he has been with before. I think he's having a lot of fun being back with them now. Yeah, and I asked him, have you told them about, your background? He's like, you didn't really have to, because they all played together. They all know each other. But we talked about how this is going to be the best passing offense he's ever played in, so I asked him about that, and it's like, it's refreshing. There's more room. It's like, we talk about the more room for activities type of stuff, where there's just more room to run, because at West Virginia, they know you're running the ball, and what they have to prepare for is maybe like play action and the read option. Here, like, you're going to bring in some safeties up front. You want to do that? Okay. Yeah. Then, it's your funeral. Yeah. And if you don't, then again, it's your funeral. So there's good reason he's happy. Moving to James Peoples, his goal, he said, he wants 1,000 yards. They both pretty much want 1,000 yards, just like last year. Although don't talk about last year to Carlos Locklyn. But James Peoples, I asked him, like, Ryan Day wants you guys to visualize that Texas game. What's that for you? And what are fans going to see? And he's basically like, you'll see. Like, just wait and see. You'll he doesn't want to necessarily name the score just yet. But these are two guys that are extremely excited for what is about to happen for them, to them, and then also excited to be able to do something for this team, because again, CJ Donaldson was at West Virginia last year. James Peoples was watching it from the sideline last year. Yeah. Now they both get to do what they saw others doing last year. Right. Well, and these are all guys, if you're playing at Ohio State, you are someone who has been a starter for your high school team, or if you're a transfer, whatever team you transferred from, you've been a starter for years and years and years. You are not used to watching from the sideline. And, if you have played for the South Florida Express, you are not used to losing multiple games. I don't remember how many games West Virginia lost last year, 4 or 5, whatever it was. That's not, watching from the sideline is not what you're familiar with and not what you want. Losing games is not what you're familiar with, not what you want. This is an opportunity to get back to what you would probably consider normalcy, and an opportunity to play and show what you can do. And, CJ Donaldson could be off to the NFL after this year. So this is an opportunity for a little bit of a statement year for him. And for James Peoples, I think the expectations are, I'm sure the James Peoples internal internal monologue expectations are pretty high. The James People external expectations are pretty high as well. He's someone who, just coming into the spring, it was kind of like, all right, well, they just lost 2 guys who went in the high second round of the NFL draft, and yeah, they'll probably be fine because, boy, everything we saw from James Peoples in the limited amount of time we saw him last year was pretty darn good. And some of the external factors that would help a running back, like, as you mentioned, the passing game and the threats they have, and what, probably keeping some safeties out of the box with some of the passing game threats, but also this offensive line feels like it could be pretty darn good. I'm sure CJ Donaldson is probably looking at the holes that he's potentially running through and thinking, this is probably better than it was before.
Yeah.
And James Peoples is probably looking at that and going, yeah, I can make this work.
Well, it's the same thing for James Peoples, because when he was running the ball last year, it was when everybody knew they were running, because they were just running out the clock. So for both guys, they're getting an opportunity to run in the actual offense. One last thing about CJ Donaldson, he has dropped weight. He said he's at 227 now. He was asked if he's lost any power. He's like, no, Mick wouldn't allow that to happen. So don't worry about that. He's got the nutrition. He's got the weight room. All of that's just fine. Anything else from today? Again, there's a lot from Coach Locklyn. If you haven't watched it yet, go and do that, because there's one-liners, there's mottos, there's quotes. Like, you could have a lock-a-day calendar with the stuff that he says, and it's all like, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's I could if I lived this way, it would help me. That sort of thing. Anything else from today?
Yeah, Carlos Locklyn is one of those coaches that I really like hearing from, because he, like you said, there's a lot of his stuff that he just says something, you're like, oh, I could put that on a T-shirt like that, and it would probably sell. He's just he's someone who I enjoy hearing from him. I enjoy talking to him, because even when he's trying not to say, he's generally not someone who's trying not to say something. He's generally just kind of like, let it fly, man. And he's not worried about hurting feelings. He's not worried about anything. It just kind of is like, let it fly, and however it lands, it lands. And
his players appreciate that. And the last thing I'll say about James Peoples and CJ Donaldson, talking with them today, they're both very enthused. They seem to have a pretty good idea of how things are going to go. And again, they're very excited. There's just this, I'd say, quiet confidence, but also it's not necessarily all quiet either, that things are going to go well for those two. James Peoples did mention that he was asked about who stands out on defense. He said Caden McDonald. You always know he's in there when he's in there. You can always hear him afterwards and beforehand. So that's certainly good news for the Ohio State defensive line, to have Caden McDonald being one of the standouts there at nose tackle. So I think that'll do it. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here from a Friday after interview. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up if you've not yet done so on YouTube. And of course, find us at all of your podcast platforms of choice, and also BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up, join up, see us there in the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. That is the best way to support what we do. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.